The Square Ball Podcast.
Heroes and Villains now with Moscow, with Rob, with Levi Solicitors. 10% off your legal fees. levisolicitors.co.uk/The Square Ball.
I don't see them around the table, but I can feel how good that deal is.
Oh, what a bargain. What a bargain. Villain of the week, then. This is where we decide who has been the worst person. Top of the list.
It's not our decision, we should stress.
This is your decision, Moscow, because I can see Jesse Marsh at the top of that list, and you hate him.
TSB Plus members get to send in their nominations, which we then discuss and talk them out of it. So despite the fact that there is a overwhelming vote for Jesse Marsh to be the villain of the week, I want no part of it.
You wouldn't go along with Metley Chris then, who said he was the sole reason for the defeat, which it wasn't a defeat, it was a draw.
I noticed that. It's quite funny. And I noticed as well on one of the clips before from the Southampton propaganda, I described the guy as listening to their winner. I typed that down as well, which says a lot about the defeat. And you know whose fault that is?
Jesse Marsh.
Not Jesse Marsh.
Not Jesse Marsh, okay.
Paul Gascoigne says it's Jesse Marsh's fault. He says, he says you called Jesse a minge last week.
You said I called Jesse a minge. Did we?
Paul Gascoigne. I mean, it's confusing because I don't think it's the Paul Gascoigne.
No.
It's not Gaza. There was certainly some discussion about somebody calling Jesse a minge. I don't know if you accused it of Paul Gascoigne of it.
Gaza says he didn't call Jesse a minge last week, but he is this week. Should have made changes so much earlier. Everyone around us saying the same from drinks break in the second half, for fuck's sake. 2 points dropped, you fucking minge, is how he ends it.
Yeah, and then Nicola, that Jesse Marsh was so confident in his ability to master the hot conditions from his MLS days that he decided he didn't need to make any substitutions until the players died of heat stroke. This is probably, I think Melbourne White probably gets to the nub of it as well. Just said, Marsh, you've got 5 subs, frickin' use them.
Do you think he was thrown by the fact that Bamford had to go off? And he was like, well, I have made a sub. I just can't, I don't want to do any more now. I feel like I've done that.
4's a lot though, isn't it, to have remaining? It's more than you previously had, so it was weird. It's just, given that he'd spoken about it through the week, it was then bizarre what happened.
In fairness to him, he has come out and kind of owned it, hasn't he? He said, yeah, I should have made some changes.
Well, he said he wasn't sure and he'd go back and have a look to see whether he had made a mistake, but he was kind of feeling like maybe he should have done it a bit earlier. I don't know, it's weird because the substitutions against Wolves were so good and so kind of game-changing, but then if you throw your mind back to last season, didn't we bring Luke Ayling off by mistake in one game? Was that against Manchester City? I'm now trying to look back to see which
I think that might have been Southampton last season, maybe.
It was definitely at Elland Road.
He was meant to bring Liam Cooper off, and then
yes, that's it.
The number went up for Luke Ayling. He went, no, don't do that, and then turned around to sort out the subs. And then by the time he turned back around, they were taking Luke Ayling off again.
Yeah, we brought on Pascal Stroit for Luke Ayling, so and he came out afterwards. And again, he's refreshingly. He gives you a lot of detail that things would remain mysterious under other coaches, but he will kind of say, oh yeah. I didn't realise we were taking Luke Ayling off until he was sitting next to me on the bench. So you do, there's kind of a question mark over why that kind of mistake should be made and why just the obvious thing in this game doesn't happen. And you can't always go with the obvious thing because what seems obvious to us as fans, often there are reasons we don't know about why, that couldn't happen or this couldn't happen. But this match just seems so clear and cut and dried that it's just weird.
I seem to remember last year as well, we were getting a bit annoyed with him at times for making subs when we felt like he didn't need to. Like in the Norwich game, I remember him making defensive subs and we were all like, don't do that, you're ruining it. I mean, we did win that game in the end.
I was going to mention that Norwich game because it was Robin Koch he brought on to sort of shore things up, and all that ended up happening was that the ball kept coming towards the Leeds goal, and it was Joffrey Gelhart's late winner was needed because they'd equalised. And he said after that, I don't want to make defensive subs. That was out of character for me. He's like, I want to make offensive subs that can go and affect the game. And that was the thing that he did really well against Wolves, because when Wolves had all that ball, he could have easily thought, shall I bring another midfielder on here to shore things up? Or should we go defensive? Should we go 5 at the back? And actually brought Click-On to play as a number 10 and take the ball forward again, which was massively what helped against Wolves. And I think that's what we needed against Southampton, but it didn't happen.
That's where the big factor is the heat wave, or just the extreme heat of the day, the hottest day in Premier League history, because the substitutions he did make in the end were Click and Sinistera. So they were attacking substitutions, even though we were back to 2-2. And then Forshaw came on to a few minutes after that for his experience at the back. But just purely for the stamina of the players involved, is fresh legs, because Sinistera, tricky winger, fast, all the things you want him to be. And Click, we saw he created that chance for Rodrigo, and he will run forward with the ball. And they're probably the players that if you're a tired, knackered old cart horse in Southampton's back line, you're thinking, oh God, I'm going to have Sinistera running at me instead of Dan James, who was just like crawling on the floor, puking and crying at the heat, then, those substitutions made sense. The only thing that was really wrong with them was that they happened after they'd equalised. Yeah,
that's the thing, 'cause his initial change when Southampton changed things was to go 5 at the back, or 3 at the back, however you want to say it. So you think there, rather than think about how we're going to defend this, just go and keep the ball at the other end of the field with some fresh legs.
I guess that's why he's kept Harrison on instead of putting Yelder into the mix as our only sort of left-back option, or putting him at centre-back and keeping the big pirate at left-back, was to keep the attacking option. Jackie can get us up the pitch and counter-attack, but then he just ends up picking on him for... I mean, that's the other reason for... I would probably more nominate Marsh for picking on Jackie than the substitutions, because, I mean, Newcastle are still trying to spend money. And of all the players to pick out, it's like the one player that's actually got a saleable value.
He's not the one player with a saleable value. That's very harsh, I would say.
The rest of them worth nothing. They're worth less than Scum Squad.
Put them all in the skip in the West Ham.
Let's say... But I would be very, very surprised if we did a David Livermore with Brendan Aronson at this point, if he's had 2 good games and we're something like, well, that bid from Newcastle was just too good to turn down. But Harrison is the one player that there's kind of a bit of a risk factor, unless there was those good stories about Scum increasing their budget for a De Gea replacement to 7 million and looking at Illan Meslier. Those two things don't work.
Looking at Illan Meslier as if it's 1995 and you can buy the best goalkeeper in the world for that sort of price.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, poor old Marsh. He takes this one just as he took the Wolves one. So we've hammered him enough. Make some subs. Just make some good subs.
We still drew.
Yeah, exactly. And we got to 2-0 up in the first place.
Exactly. Who else is nominated then?
Well, much more comfortable with this one. Southampton.
Okay.
Our opponents. Stephen, who wants a Boston accent. We're going to end up with Stephen having to... If you want to hear your accent, leave us a voice memo. It's the easiest thing, because instead we have to say, what's a Boston accent? It's a Saints back line for rugby tackling Aronson all game. Is that Boston? The Saints back line.
Is that... Are you going Lincolnshire there or America?
Anyway, so them, and then Scott's Oates, Southampton's constant fouling, and then also the fact that Hasenhüttl made a triple substitution when we should have been doing that. It's not fair.
Trent Melbourne-White nails it again as well, very succinctly, just saying Southampton for not lying down at 2-0 and insisting on a comeback, which I agree. That was the main problem.
It was a really hot day. Why don't you just give up?
And they tricked us by pretending to be broken and sad just before then, when it was Bednarek who went off with his head in his hands.
Yeah, that was seemed like the moment we'd got them.
Yeah, that was the moment I thought, piece of piss this last 20 minutes.
We really needed the players on the pitch to be doing that, their players.
Another thing blamed for the comeback was the drinks break. Dave and Sazzy both complaining about that. I mean, I think it's probably advisable that they have drink breaks.
But it's a drinks break, not a coaching break. That's the thing. People like, Dave M describes him as Ralph Haas and whatever, all there with the tactics boards and all that stuff. It's not a coaching opportunity. They should be allowed drinks, no chat.
Okay, and they should have to drink a bottle of milk like they're at school.
And a nap.
Good idea.
A nap break.
A really good idea. Just have 5 minutes on the pitch. The crowd all has to quieten down.
Dan James looked like he needed it. And I'll keep picking on Dan James in the heat, but they did keep... there were these just shots of him looking absolutely suffering, and then he was subbed off after coming on. So I think he had a tough old day. Maybe the drinks break helped him, but maybe milk and the nap would have helped him more.
Shall we pick on a different Dan?
Yes.
This is from Andy.
All right, lads, this is Andy. My villain of the week is Dan Moylan. You can't have an holiday during football season. Look what you've done to Michael Normanton. He's had to be positive, enthusiastic, and he's having to use his posh telephone voice on the Filet podcast and on the Match Ball podcast. It's just not on, mate, is it?
I mean, that was a criticism of me as well, there, really. But fine, yeah, blame Dan.
Nobody knew you could be so polite.
I know,
it's the thing.
It's terrible. I feel like it's been actual work again, trying to do Phil Hay and having to be professional.
He is hard work, I hear.
He's dreadful, yeah. Normally I can say what I want and Dan edits it out, but now I'm editing myself and it's a bit tougher.
I think having listened to you on the Phil Hay show, the Monday version, I think the only mistake you made was I think you edited too much of you out and not enough of Phil. I felt that I would have liked to hear more Michael, less Phil.
Okay, I'll suggest it next time.
It was a big opportunity for that.
To really push him to one side. Just monologue for 5 minutes, then go, thanks, Phil.
All he had to say was, we're not signing this player, we're not signing that player. I'd much rather have heard whatever you had to say about stuff.
Fair enough. I'll put it forward as an option.
Did you ask him if he was once a teenager?
I didn't get into that on the show.
Not make the cut.
Although Dan did tell me that they probably don't listen to it before it goes out, so I could have snuck some stuff in. But I think I like to think Phil might have pulled me up on it if I started saying, what was your body like as a teenager, Phil?
But the opportunity is still there for you to ask him about penises on the upcoming episode.
Yeah, maybe do that. We'll sneak an extra ball episode out of Phil where we ask him about penises and his teenage body.
Phil chats dick.
It could be a weekly show. Who knows?
I don't know if he's got that much to say about it.
Maybe.
Well, I suppose he's got a lifetime's experience, as do we all.
Who else has been nominated then?
Rob Price, injuries in general / Bamford's body.
Yes, Sarah has lamented Bamford's body, actually.
Villain of the week for me is poor Patrick Bamford's body. We love Patrick. He's terrific. He's been terrific for Leeds, will be terrific for Leeds. He's a terrific human being. You could say a fine young man, but his body has let him down. And so Patrick Bamford's body is nominated for Villain of the Week.
Fair enough.
Oh, terrific in there, wasn't there?
Fine young man.
Like listening to Del Boy phoning in.
And Jane the Cowgirl goes one step further on the Bamford front.
Hey, this is Jane in Nashville. Not a cowgirl. And my villain this week is God for making Patrick Bamford out of cotton candy.
God. There you go. He's not having it. Too controversial.
I mean, Gandhi was villain of the issue towards the end of last season, so we could go God, I suppose.
Injuries in general, isn't it? Chuck Lake Biscuit is specific that it's Pat's rebellious abductor that should take it. And then Rob Price nominates Rob Price, for what I could tell, or at least maybe somebody misunderstood the form and entered the name of the villain instead of their own name. But Rob Price seems to have written in to say that there was way too much optimistic information because he did that update video in the week leading Karma to directly destroy Paddy Bamford within half an hour. Get back to the limb farm, Rob, says Rob.
He's never addressed that claim, has he?
No.
Hidden away from that, even though we called him out on it and didn't deny it either, did he? Which is quite telling.
So there's him. Kyle Walker-Peters is nominated by Jake from Florida and Boney M for scoring from a stupidly tight angle and having a stupid name.
Fair enough.
Brentford, which same complaint as well, that they let scum off in the second half.
Yeah, I think that is fair enough.
A Southampton-esque 9-0 says Matt H might have killed Goldbridge off. Collateral damage, but then I suppose if there's a nuclear attack, then he'll probably be safe in Nottingham though, won't he?
I was going to say, we never use Goldbridge, do we, for propaganda, because he's not
a scum fan.
He's not actually a scum fan.
No, it's just cosplaying.
Yeah, which is it's weird. I want to see. I know a lot of the stuff is performative and over the top, and
you think?
But at least they are scum fans, as far as I know. Whereas he, like I say, seems to be a Forest fan who's started doing this as a bit of a joke, and then it's profitable because he gets like 1 million views of all of his YouTube videos. Did
we ever get those adverts with TalkSport?
Yeah.
Okay, are they still going?
I don't know. Dan might be doing them.
Well, then, just in case, he's a fine addition to their lineup.
Oh, is he on there now?
I think he got signed up for them, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah. Was it him or was it? It was Goldbridge, wasn't it?
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, because they did a big unveiling video.
TalkSport would never sign anyone who is reactionary and annoying. I can guarantee it.
Meanwhile, back to the villain nomination for The Sun.
The newspaper?
No.
Don't buy it, kids. Don't ever buy
it. That's true. The one that gives us heat, but also life. But no mercy crease. The sun. It made that last 20 minutes really hard. If only we could have changed a few of the more tired players and we've done that bit. But Goldie also climate change, and then Pete from Melbourne, the heat, and Sean, the sun. Quite succinct, just we are the big burning globe in the sky. Has it ever shone on Southampton?
Quite often, I'm going to say.
It's not a seaside town. There's a lot of it in Brighton, but Southampton's just docks.
Does it have a beach? No, it doesn't.
Just docks.
Someone will correct us and say it doesn't have a beach, but let's say not.
If it does, it's not a good one.
Okay. Only one nomination for the referee, which is poor. Normally referee stroke VAR has got a good 10 bullet points underneath it. Rory, the only person. More dreadful than usual. I barely noticed him.
There was a bit of Southampton players being annoying, wasn't there? Kind of going down easily, rolling around a bit. I think there's a few. I mean, there was that bit where Pascal Strauch sort of karate kicked someone in the head with his thigh, and he let us off with that. So probably fine, but a little bit annoying. Who was the ref? I can't remember now.
Some guy.
Yeah.
With a whistle.
Some bloke, yeah. Is that it then, or are there any others?
Oh, there's a couple of... Rasmus Christensen, given his low rating on the player rater and the criticism he got in propaganda, has got away with. There was only one villain nomination. I was quite surprised. Jelly said maybe, but even Jelly puts the blame on us spending too much time touting him as a cult figure, the fans in general, and which have spent more time coaching him how to defend. So I think maybe that's the willingness to give him more than 2 games before starting throwing any villain nominations around. Rodrigo gets one for making Sean look a mug, and Melier for getting megged for their first goal. But
he didn't get megged, did he?
Sort of the player went round him. I think the problem was Melier came out, but he had to find a way of stopping him without fouling him, and he didn't manage to do it because it was actually on the boring Southampton fans. You can't really hear it again, which is another reason why I didn't include it. But the guy who knows football, when he's in with that chance, is going, "Oh no, what are you doing? Hey!" So it was probably good skill and calmness in that situation. Curse them.
Are we giving it to Jesse then? He's definitely got the most nominations.
He's got the weight of nominations. Oh, we could give it to Dan.
I mean, the heat has arguably made us suffer all week.
And did it scramble his mind? Could he not think clearly? I know he gave it all like, "Oh, I'm the god of MLS sunshine." I demanded all our games be moved to the Mojave Desert at noon all the time.
He should have worn a big old jumper just to prove a point on the weekend. Like old people do sometimes when it's hot and you see him walking around town in a jacket. Or indeed, Moscow White, who turned up on Saturday in an anorak and black jeans and boots.
It's a nice coat.
There was just no call for it.
I didn't want to burn my arms.
But they must have been internally burning.
Internally burning? My blood wasn't boiling.
Well, I think that would have been a possibility if I'd have been wearing a coat.
I was perfectly comfortable.
Anyway, so it's not hot. Get Moscow on the bench, is what I'm saying. Just so he can come on and not feel the heat. You can't run around either, probably, but at least you won't get hot.
I could have helped him. I just said, "Jesse, substitutions," and he would have, knew there was something. I guess, let's give it him, but it's because it's the substitutions. We're happy with a lot else, but this is Leeds, and dickheads like us will be on you for throwing away. I mean, a 2-goal lead as well. It is a long time since we've done a 2-goal lead. There was Cardiff on the round when Pascal Stroik came on and ruined it.
I mean, this did happen last season as well. It is worth saying that it was start of last season, wasn't it, when we went to Newcastle and we were cruising and it was only a goal up, should have been 2 or maybe even 3. Then we managed to throw that one away. So this does happen. This isn't a Jesse Marsh problem. This happens all the time in games.
And when it does happen, we do tend to slag off whoever's done it.
Though you wouldn't have slagged off Bielsa, would you?
We did. We did. You can go back and find the times that we did criticise these things.
On to Hero of the Week then, and top of the list on nominations is Rodrigo, getting absolutely loads. We've had a voice message from Jesse Marsh, stays hydrated, which I know is something you enjoyed watching on the weekend, Moscow.
Hero of the match, I'm going to definitely go with Rodrigo. I feel kind of bad for him because if you look on social media, he gets a lot of flack, even in a match where he scores 2 goals, and one of which being within a minute of the second half starting. I feel like he's a player who is kind of so known for such a stretch of poor form that when he does well, people are still kind of hyper fixated on the ways that he doesn't do well. So that I feel bad for, because there's no better metric for an offensive player than whether or not they're putting the ball in the opponent's net.
I'm going to start using that as a defence. Stop being hyper-fixated on the things that I'm doing wrong. even if I've made some monumental error at home, I just go, are you going to fixate on that here? All right, fine. What about all the good things? What about all the stuff I haven't broken yet?
I quite enjoy what Melbourne White sent in, that is probably the perfect illustration of what JM Stays Hydrated was saying. Rodrigo is his hero nomination, though I can't believe I'm saying it and not really sure he deserves it.
That's kind of where I'm at with him still. Brendan Aronson kind of follows it up as well. Rodrigo for doing nice goals. Still plays like he's playing football with his kids, though.
I think he stole a goal from Pascal as well. Big Pirate wants a goal.
I think the way we're kind of unsure about him still is captured quite nicely in Sven's little message that he sent in as well.
Hi, this is Sven from Norway. I always rated Rodrigo Moreno. Yeah, on and on.
Yeah, I always liked him.
The sincerity really coming through. And even Lucy saying you can't really argue with his performances, and in particular his goals, including the celebrations, which is, I think, is a big point in his favour. His celebrations are cute. Even if he did get leggy towards the end of the game and he should have been subbed off. And Christie points out that he's the perfect player for a 5-sub era, i.e. he can give us a great 45. So
damning with praise.
Yeah, right. Chris says he just needs a bit of love, but a maximum of 45 minutes and no more. I don't know. I think it's just because we've been watching him for 2 years, waiting for him to get good, and now he is getting good. Nobody can believe it. Is it good? We've been fooled before.
I think that's the thing. We have been here before. At the end of the first season in particular, everyone's like, he's looking really sharp. Next season will be his. And then the next season started and it wasn't. And it was probably worse than the first one. But this one is going well.
I hope it stays that way as well, because I have warmed to him after we discussed his cheap T-shirt and his Space Jam backpack that he turned up. So when I was looking at what all the players turned up for pre-season wearing, and they're all like, £400 T-shirts and stuff, and then I think his T-shirt was worth 30 quid and his Space Jam backpacks was 40. And Paddy Gunn, who doesn't want you to call him Patrick, pointed out on Twitter, when they all come off the bus before a game, he was the only one whose earphones had a cable. So he's not even got Bluetooth headphones. He's just got, it could be just the stock ones that came with his phone that probably he might have got like 5 years ago and just hasn't. So there's something nice about that, and the sort of the genuine joy when he stole that goal from Pascal Struijk. Boney M points out that he's actually nominating him as a hero for not giving a shit about that. There is some kind of sincere joy and like a lack of like grasping commercialism that you would associate with perhaps a Ronaldo.
Yeah, he's not bothered about anyone being impressed with him in the celebration, is he? He's just having fun. And
on the first goal as well, he was really torn because he goes backwards and forwards. His first thought is, I'll go over the away fans, but he's like, but that was a really good cross. And he's like, but the away fans, I have a bit, he probably thinks I have a bit of an awkward time with them. I should celebrate with the fans, but Jackie with that ball, and in the end he's like, I've got to go over and thank Jackie for this. He made it possible.
I don't think he does have an awkward time with fans in the stadium, weirdly enough. It seems to be one of these purely online things with Rodrigo that people seem frustrated with him, but I don't think anyone ever has sort of hated him as a person. And he's had some good moments of celebrating with fans as well, like the Wolves goal at the end of last season and stuff. And I think there's enough that people have always kind of taken to him, even if they don't want him in the team.
There's always that element, though, in the modern football, and Leeds is probably all right for one of the clubs that takes the longest for any of it to translate to the team. So the dog's abuse that Tyler Roberts would get on Twitter was never there when he's going around the pitch applauding all 4 stands, and it was only a very long time into the season that there was sort of murmurs when he was coming on as a sub, and that happened with the team in general, because if you remember, we were losing against Manchester City and cheering them, and
it was Brighton, wasn't it, last season when things finally sort of spilled over, and that was it with Rodrigo when he gave the ball away pathetically like 3 times, and then it was his ironic cheer, wasn't it, that he got when he completed a pass. But again, that's kind of the worst he's had it in the ground.
But
he got ironically cheered.
He'll no doubt be aware of it, because people tell them things and don't just leave it for where we prefer it to be, because don't necessarily think Rodrigo needs to hear. Unless I'm happy for him to hear what I think about his lovely backpack.
I've done some maths on Rodrigo, and do you know how many goals he's going to score this season?
How many?
57.
Oh, because it's 3 and 2.
That's what he's going to do. Yeah, he's going to keep that up.
How many is he going to steal from Pascal Struijk?
No more than a third of that.
So if Pascal Struijk scored a third of that, that would be 18.
Yeah,
and he'd be one of the Premier League's top scorers.
Correct.
So I think maybe let Pascal have those goals, because I think a world where the Premier League's top scorer with 37 is Rodrigo, and he's closely followed by Pascal Struijk with about 18. That's a Premier League I like.
Okay, we'll go along with that. I'd probably accept 15 goals from Rodrigo this season.
I thought we were going to say Struijk. Goal-scoring centre-half.
I'd like 2 from him.
He is actually, because it was a good header from him at the end of the season against Brighton, and that was a good header from him on Saturday as well. That it was going in, wasn't it? So he's becoming more of a threat at corners.
Jackie Harrison gets a few nominations. Looks lively so far this season, says Adwit. Philip Pete from Melbourne. No Mercy Crease all saying similar things. It never stops working, and our main creative threat. He's another one who doesn't get a huge amount of credit, I don't feel like, Jackie. There's always that thing of like, well, we could sell him. Kind of like to see Sinistera, but then he's just there getting assists every game, so
he's good.
Leave him in.
He got credit on our blog this week, didn't he?
He did, yes. At least I'm giving him credit, which everyone definitely read. But
that's because you're a fine young man.
As is Jackie. I'd have nominated him just for taking his top off, to be honest, because he looked amazing. But
would you put yourself in the same fine young man bracket as Jackie? He's saying you're equal?
No, he's far finer.
Oh,
we all know that.
I mean, I don't know.
Rob?
Never write anything.
Take your shirt off.
Let's take my brow off underneath this. But no, he's good. I like him. He's creating lots of chances, as many as Kevin De Bruyne after 2 games or something. He's created 11 chances after 2 matches.
And the gif that you made for that blog post of him, that one touch ball through in the first half, that I've forgotten about, was
sort of back to Rodrigo.
Yeah, that's a beautiful touch.
He does a lot of that. He's the player that whenever Leeds don't know what to do with it, they just give it to Jack Harrison, and he'll often be in lots of tight space and have 4 players around him, and it's not the sexiest, most glamorous thing, but he just keeps the ball, and that's quite difficult sometimes.
Anyone else then?
Meslier, his save at the end.
Good save, but I would have expected him to make it. Johnny
B also nominates him for not bursting the defence after missing out on a clean sheet. So maybe he did that behind closed doors. So we can't say for certainty that was heroic. Brendan Aronson, just I think people like him, and the Leeds away fans. We heard a little bit of them on the Southampton propaganda drowning out the vloggers. It's basically saying Trent and Garforth Matt. Garforth Matt was sat in the home end, so necessarily subdued, but it was like Leeds with a home team. Amazing support as usual.
Some nominations are for the Man United thing, we'll call it.
Is that what we call them now?
Well, there are a few people. There's sort of Ten Hag, there's De Gea's in there. In fact, Billy B. I'm guessing not the Billy B from B Sotted, because he called himself Billy B, doesn't he? But he's not. This Billy B has nominated David De Gea.
Hero. Well, I'm currently 15 minutes into the late kickoff, so it's going to be David De Gea. Put a smile straight back on my face. What a guy.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I did title this bit of clutch of nominations as Eric Ten Hag, etc. Because I think Methley Chris's was the first one I'd seen. Described him as David Hockaday for the hipster generation. Glorious.
Gap year Hockaday.
He does have an element of... so we've given Marsh, he's been nominated as a villain for kind of dithering his way through the second half and not making a decision. I've not seen Ten Hag do anything. Every time I see a shot of him, he is just either sitting or standing on the touchline just watching. And there doesn't seem to be a thought behind those eyes or an idea in his head. And it's very similar to... I've now worked myself around to praising myself for a graphic I once made of...
it was a very good graphic. I don't know what you're talking about.
One. Dave Hockaday against Bradford. He's whispering with his kind of half covering his hand over his mouth to Matthew Smith. And I cleverly put a caption over it as if he was saying, "Psst, Mike, I've got no idea what I'm doing." And I'm getting that vibe from Erik Ten Hag. He'll just be, he has to telling Erik Christensen, I don't know what to do.
Erik Christensen?
Exactly, that's the joke.
Sorry, yes. No, that is the joke.
The way you would call Matt Mike,
yes,
he will call Christian Eriksen Erik Christensen. I don't know where to play you. Where do you normally play? Where did your last manager play you?
Bless him.
Lads, so I'm struggling a little bit. So can somebody tell me what Ollie used to do? No?
We're all enjoying them, aren't they? I think that's fair to say. He's bringing a bit of joy. And I think the nice thing with Ten Hag was that it seemed like a really good appointment on paper. I was genuinely worried at one point, he does seem to have been a good manager. His Ajax side played really good football. There were some clips of Scum looking good in pre-season. And then it's brilliant that they've turned up for the actual thing and just completely stunk the place out instantly. And they still can't really sign anyone. So they're looking around people who were good 5 years ago, trying to sign them. So long may it continue.
Just read that tweet to me again. Can you remember it from before? About I think I've got it committed to memory. That Ronaldo is eating lunch alone.
Yes. And
Manchester United are trying to sign
Jamie Vardy. And they all had to go in on Sunday and run, which was funny as well.
Yes. Oh, that was brilliant.
Yeah. The what was the distance?
It was about 13 kilometres, wasn't it?
Because Brentford had outrun them by that much, so they all had to come in on Sunday. And imagine Ronaldo's face when you told him that.
I'm amazed he did it.
Well, even the stories had to make a point of even Ronaldo, you believe it or not, he joined in.
Oh, God. Long may that continue. Brentford have got some nominations for their part of it. Sarah kicks this off.
Hero of the week, going off field here. A 2-2 draw is great. We're not at the stage of the season yet where 1 point is brilliant. Should have been 3. Therefore, I'm nominating Brentford because it's given me 2 days of unbridled joy seeing Manchester United at the bottom of the Premier League. Really enjoying that.
Unbridled. Bridles off.
I can't remember them ever being bottom, I have to say. My whole life. I don't think I can remember.
1974, the year we won the league.
I was not around for that.
I don't know if they even finished absolute rock bottom, but they got relegated, which was great, and it's going to happen again.
Imagine if it did. Just imagine
I don't know if they'd even survive it. How do you put a club of that size into, even with parachute payments?
The Glazers, this is their plan apparently, according to Mancandy. This is the anarchy they want. They definitely don't want to miss out on the old Premier League money. So let's hope they do.
They were not rock bottom in 1974 when we won the league. Norwich were below them because, Norwich green and gold, they just did that to be nice, didn't they? Oh no, we'll go last. Sorry, we can't have Manchester United last. Norwich will do it. Yeah. Send them down.
Another nomination for Jesse Marsh's water bottle, if we're going to go really off-piste on this. I think the way Jesse Marsh handled it was the problem. He was sucking at it greedily, and it was disturbing to watch.
It was a little bit like watching a baby calf at the teats. I'm sorry if Jane is still listening. The non-cowgirl getting flashbacks to whatever cow crime gave her the fear. But no, heroic, I guess, in Goldie's view, because it did at least rehydrate him. So, and drinking water is important.
Okay.
Well, it is, especially with the weather we're having. Stay hydrated.
Who's having it then?
Stay in school.
Should we give it to Rodrigo?
I notice you've glossed over Sean's nomination for yourself.
too modest for that.
Handling the hosting duties like a champ.
Despite working with some horribly unprofessional people.
And we should probably get that in from Sean, because it is the last time we'll ever have an opportunity to nominate you for such a thing.
It's true. Yeah, Dan's back.
And he can never go away again.
No, it's best that he doesn't. It's been fine though, I think, hasn't it? Probably, in the main. I should have clarified, actually, on my hosting duty around the Brentford stuff. We were recording during that game, and I said, it's hard to know who you want to win in that. Obviously, Scum losing 4-0 was brilliant and hilarious, but I'm still in that unsure phase of the season where I kind of want there to be worse teams. So just as I wanted Liverpool to beat Palace yesterday, even though Liverpool losing to Palace would have been funny, I don't know. I'm not yet confident of our own safety.
No, there's a long time to start worrying about that yet.
I suppose
you've got to embrace these summer months.
But there's the Brentford factor as well, because of all the teams that you want to be enjoying it, and they did it as well. Thomas Frank touring the pitch, all the Hey Jude stuff, and all that. Aren't Brentford good? No, don't want to hear any of that. So of all the teams to do that to Scum, and as well, they didn't finish the job off.
That is true.
They had them in the palm of their hands at half-time, and they took their foot off the neck. So I don't know what's in their hands if their foot's on the neck. I don't want to take us back to... I mean, this is the one thing that has characterised your premiership of the podcast, is that everything seems to have gone back to cocks and balls at some point.
Okay.
But if the
you introduced the penis formation.
Neil Warnock introduced the penis formation. But no, it was understandable that it's a little bit of a quandary that you're in a world. I want bad things to happen to Manchester United, but I don't want good things to happen to Brentford.
Weirdly, Brentford winning 1-0, I'd have felt unsure about. Brentford winning 4-0 is very funny. So it's okay. That's definitely okay.
Yeah, we're not going to listen to Be Sorted to see what they're saying about it, though.
God, no. God, no. Too much smugness by far on that one. Right, that's it then. Rodrigo, we're giving it to him. I've made the decision. Rodrigo's having it. He might not get another chance. We need to be nicer to him.
He can put the award in his backpack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And imagine him celebrating it as well.
He might be listening to us now on his little old headphones that he got from the Argos catalogue in 1992.
Some Alba headphones. One of them not quite working. Footballers all get them free, don't they? The Beats send them all out to them, don't they? So they can look cool. Maybe they've decided Rodrigo's too much of a geek.
Imagine him on the team coach saying, I've got one of those adapters, so you can we can both listen to the same Walkman. You just have to plug yours in and
big box of tapes. Oh, we didn't do the tape stuff today, did we? When we were playing the clips, Dan was in charge of that last week.
Well, yeah, because playing them off of mini disc this week.
Yes, of course.
Because we were able to use a more accessible, quieter format, which is why nobody could hear the whir of the mini discs as they went in.
Right.
Saved you there, didn't I?
Speak to you next week.
The Square Ball Podcast.